We could do anything. But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it?
Welcome to Data-Driven Sports Betting. I make train bets, and I use my brain to make bets. And I get the question a lot of how do you make your decisions around sports betting? Because the A-Train Station is designed to be kind of these power tools, this advanced software in making these decisions. And there's so much configurability. There's so much optionality in how you look at these plays. And the way we've created these visual tools is that we're bringing forward all this information. And one of the key things is like, there's no hard and fast rules. Everything is about context. Everything is about nuance. So I wanted to create this video as the first in a series of videos that will help you understand certain betting patterns and how I analyze a handful of plays. So you can look at this and start thinking about it the same way. Even though these plays are long gone by the time you watch this video, it'll help you understand why and how I make the decisions that I make. And so I tried to pick out a few that are classic just from this morning. Classic examples of the kinds of things that I'm going to do. So the first thing to know is on the account settings, the weightings page, we have BetOnline is a 1 and Pinnacle is a 1. So this is how I'm doing my betting currently, and this will change over time. What I found is BetOnline is particularly good at player props, and Pinnacle is particularly good at not player props. They are good at the spreads, the totals, the money lines, those kinds of things. So anything that's not player-based, Pinnacle is my go-to. BetOnline is my go-to for the player-based stuff. But I like seeing them both because when I have alignment, I'm that much happier, right? So I want to go through and show you some of this. But so a question often comes up, hey, Train, why don't you use the default weightings when you got to pick what the defaults were? Well, and the reason is the default weightings kind of help give you that overview of the entire market. You won't get into as much trouble. It's a little bit less aggressive, but it's probably a little bit less profitable in the long run. It's also really useful for a closing line value calculation. So we have some other videos that talk about some of that. Just know the defaults are not there to just be the thing you use blindly forever. In A-Train Station, we don't want you doing anything blindly forever. We want you always to be thinking about it. And part of the reason I'm creating this video is I at least want to walk you through how I'm actually doing it when you see me on my live streams, what the weightings are that I'm actually using. The reason we do this is these books set lines better than everybody else. So let's look to them for that best understanding of what the truth should be while everybody else is playing catch up. And that's where I found the most value lately. And that's why I'm doing it that way. And I expect that will change over time. I expect you will change your strategy over time. And I want you to try different things out. The one thing I have to very, very clearly encourage you to not do, though, is include not sharp books in your weightings, especially at a high level. If you have BetOnline as a 1 and Pinnacle as a 1, if you add in BetMGM and DraftKings, your whole weighting system is done. If it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, done. You're not going to have any edge whatsoever. You're going to destroy that because BetMGM and DraftKings are really not good at setting lines. And if you treat those as half of your assessment of the market, now you're just flipping coins all over the place. So be very thoughtful that the books that you set at the highest amounts are the sharpest books. So even if I look at my default weightings, you can see BetOnline's at 2, Pinnacle's at a 5, and we might actually be raising those soon in our default weightings because they're not aggressive enough. So the default weightings will change over time as well. So we're going to be calibrating this, but we pull in a whole bunch of other books because we want to make sure that when they offer lines, we're at least giving some credit that they are still professional sports books setting lines. That's not what this whole video is about. So this video is about saying BetOnline is a 1, Pinnacle is a 1. We're going to save those weightings and we're going to go on from there. In this case, let's look. This is a basketball game, Miami Heat, Brooklyn Nets. We're looking for this Nick Claxton points, rebounds, assists, over and under 27.5, right? This is an example of a situation where the Nick Claxton points, rebounds, assists, something has happened at Pinnacle to see these lines indicate where these lines have been at Pinnacle while this bet has been offered. These lines show me that at some point, Pinnacle was over here with everybody else. None of these guys have moved their lines at all. Pinnacle, for some reason, has gone ripped them to the right. When I see this pattern of Pinnacle has moved their lines substantially to the right, that's when I'm thinking, I might want to go make a play on what this here is a favorite at Caesars at minus 127. I could play it at Hard Rock Bet, but I don't have Hard Rock Bet in my arsenal today. I would go play this at Caesars at minus 127. Not quite as good, but still 4% EV play. When I see this is a situation where I care less about the depth of the market. I care less about the hold percentages. I care less about all of that. I'm looking simply at Pinnacle knows something. Pinnacle moves their lines for a reason. I'm going to ride those coattails and take the best play I reasonably can that's opposite of that. Because when you see this line movement go here and you see this calculation end up here, you've got to play this. This is one where now this is about a market timing thing. This is about moving quickly. So that's how I would play this. Would I make this play? Absolutely yes. Nick Claxton, points, rebounds, assists under 27.5, either at Hard Rock or at Caesars. I probably would ignore it at Fliff. Right. Next one. Here's a situation where you have a similar story of Pinnacle moving hard to the right on this Jake Gunsel assists under 0.5. This one's interesting for a couple of reasons, though. So on one hand, you have DraftKings, who has a fairly low hold of 5.86%. You have Pinnacle, who has an insanely low hold for a player prop at a 3.91%. So then you would ask yourself, okay, all these books have been here sitting around. Do I want to make a play or not? And the fact is once again, I'm looking to that Pinnacle hard line movement to the right and the super low hold. And on this one, I'm saying, even though all the rest of this market is very consolidated, once again, I see this line movement at Pinnacle. I have to take action on that, and they're moving hard. I'm probably going to make this play. So this one is one where I love that 3.91%, love the hard line movement. I'm a little bit concerned on the DraftKings BetMGM Hard Rock alignment there, but these are not sharp books compared to what Pinnacle is. I'm still going to make this play, and especially at this low hold. So I probably play it near full Kelly amount at a 3% positive EV. Might discount it slightly, but the fact is that DraftKings would probably limit me anyway. So if I tried to place $100 on my bet recommendation here, they'd never let me anyway. So this is a scenario where we have that. The other thing to this, so that's on the surface. That's just looking at this play in isolation. There's another factor, though, that I want to talk about on this particular play. Whereas like with this one, it was just a random play isolation. This one came to relatively the same conclusion, but I would actually bet this one at full Kelly because DraftKings has a history. DraftKings has a history of overweighting these overs because DraftKings is such a public book, such a square book. They take a lot of action from recreational gamblers and not much action from sharp bettors. That's why we get limited all the time, because that's their MO. Knowing that we've had tremendous luck on basketball and hockey player unders, that gives me 10 times more confidence that I want this under at DraftKings. So that's another one where I'm like, yep, back up the truck, let's go. Because as soon as I see it's an under at DraftKings, I'm already like, let's go. And when I see this Pinnacle hard line movement with insanely low hold, I'm like, yep, that's all I need. So if I was doing this analysis quickly in the context of my normal betting, I would see this and I'd be like, yep, we're doing it. And I'd make that decision in 10 seconds. And because I would know as soon as I saw a DraftKings under and I saw that low hold at Pinnacle, I'm like, that's all I need. Let's go. And as soon as go make the play. Because there's another play to look at, like right here. All right, so here's one. In this situation, this is one where we have DraftKings under. So like I just talked about, we like the DraftKings under. But this scenario is a lot different because you see market consolidation where a lot of the market has similar prices, right? You see DraftKings with a pretty confident hold percentage here at 5.17. Our only sharp book here, we don't have bet online on this particular play. Pinnacle, we see no line movement, and we see a very high hold percentage, with the 53, but the hold percentage of 6.68. This is a scenario where despite me liking the unders at DraftKings, I'm pumping the brakes on this one. I see too many warning signs to want to play this. Now, could you argue, well, hey, that 3% positive EV calculation gives you a lot of room to work with? Maybe. And the fact that I generally like unders at DraftKings might give me enough to put a sprinkle on this. But when I see that hold very low at DraftKings and unusually high at Pinnacle, that's where I'm like, I'm probably reducing my bet. Or with DraftKings, I know they're going to limit me, so I'm probably just going to pass on this one. That's one I'm probably passing on. Okay. Next up, here's one where we have a deeper market. You have Bet Online and Pinnacle, right? On the surface, once again, love the DraftKings unders because we know the public likes overs. DraftKings plays to the public. They're going to overweight the over so they can make more money there. The unders are going to pull up and we're going to take advantage of those unders, right? As sharp sports bettors, we want to take advantage of those unders. So we like it on the surface. However, we notice a couple things. We see Pinnacle with hard line movement to the right. But in this case, we also have our other sharp book at BetOnline. Now, remember, what did I say about BetOnline? They're really good at player props, right? So when I say BetOnline's really good at player props, well, we might say, hey, at A-Train Station, we can just click on this and it'll tell us what the calculations are just from that one book as the sharp book. So if I forward there, I can see when I hit BetOnline, I can recalculate that. All of a sudden, DraftKings, that's not positive EV at all. Pinnacle moved hard, but I don't trust Pinnacle that much, especially when they're saying it a 6.95 or 6.59% hold. And you've got BetOnline here at a very low hold in the market, the second lowest in the market entirely at 6.1%. I've got to look to BetOnline here as sharper than Pinnacle on these player props. This is one where I'm walking away. So on the surface, when I was back here looking at this with both lines, I'm like, oh, this looks good. This looks good, baby. You know, I do like that there's an arbitrage, but that arbitrage is with Pinnacle. And in this case, Pinnacle's the one that's way off the rest of the market. So could you argue, well, maybe it's a coin flip? Yeah, but I don't want to bet coin flips. I want to bet things where I know I have an advantage. There's plenty of bets to make. Plenty of bets to make. This is one where this is the kind of trap thing. This is why it's good to have multiple books. That's why our defaults have so many books, is it saves you from egregious mistakes. You could bet into this thinking it's 3.17%, but only once you analyze it more, you realize, oh, wait, not at all. It's not 3.17% at all, right? So this is an absolute, I'm walking away from this one. When I see BetOnline's calculation at a negative here, knowing that now if the roles were reversed, if this were Pinnacle, I'd be like, whatever, it doesn't matter because Pinnacle's not as good on the player props. But in this case, because BetOnline is my sharpest book on player props, I'm going to look to them in absence of a Pinnacle. And if I have Pinnacle only, then maybe I still make this play and maybe I'm right or maybe I'm not. But in this case, you just have to watch when this is a situation where you still see that hard line movement from Pinnacle. They could very well be right, but it doesn't mean you don't have to play every single play. And this one, you see enough conflicting signals, you're like, I'm going to back off. All right. So this one, probably backing off. This one is an Italian soccer match. This is a scenario where we have a Caesars line at minus 170, and we have a Pinnacle line that has moved substantially to the left in this case with an offsetting line. So it's not quite an arbitrage, but it's close. Here's the deal. Not a ton of other information in this market, but look at that. Caesars hold is 4.42%, but Pinnacle 4.08. Now remember, what did we say about Pinnacle? They're super sharp at non-player props, perhaps like a soccer match. Now, the other thing to note about Pinnacle is not in the US, so they're not in the United States at all. Pinnacle's very sharp across everything because people bet American sports from all over the world. There's a lot more world than just America. I know it's news to a lot of us, but that's where Pinnacle's very useful as a sharp book reference, but they're also very sharp internationally, like on Italian soccer. So in this, when we see this level of confidence at Pinnacle with a hold of 4.08, that's where we're like, oh, they're going to be onto something. Now, Caesars with William Hill, they are sharp-ish. They have tons of data, but they don't manage it as actively as like Pinnacle really pushes to have very sharp lines, especially on something like this that's going to have an international audience betting a lot. This is one, I'm on Pinnacle all the way on this. I'm definitely taking this play. Genoa, Caesars, absolutely. I'm playing at full beans. You know, when these confidence, if I have to go Caesars against Pinnacle, I'm taking the bet at Caesars every time. Especially when we see an offsetting bet. That means there's no VIG in this market effectively between Caesars and Pinnacle. I'll have to decide, do I like Caesars better or Pinnacle better in terms of their knowledge on this particular game? In this case, I'm taking the bet at Caesars. Definitely playing this bet. All right. Finally, let's look at one more. Colorado Avalanche, Montreal Canadiens. So this one is interesting because what do we see here? We see all of it. This is one where if you see this, you got a 2% advantage, right? What did we learn? We've got DraftKings under. It screams to us right at the beginning. Assists under 0.5. So we like that. It's a favorite on top of that. So this seems to be the favorite to begin with, but we're getting better pricing here than elsewhere. Fine. You see Pinnacle with a hard line movement to the right. And you're like, oh, well, hard line movement to the right. Again, good sign for us when DraftKings is on the other side. Finally, you see low hold. So that low hold at Pinnacle, 4.2% on a player prop, is outstanding. Outstanding low hold on that. When you see all of those green lights, and it did take me long to walk you through it slowly, but when you see those green lights and you see this kind of picture, you run. Don't walk, run to make this bet at DraftKings. You bet it, and you bet it hard. You bet it whatever you're comfortable betting, because it's plays like this. When all of those signs align to the same direction, you want to make that play. You want to make that play fast. So it's the obvious ones like this where you should be like, yes, definitely. Let's go. Let's go. The only way this gets better is if I saw BetOnline and Pinnacle both doing this with low hold and a hard line movement to the right. In that case, I'm extra running over there. I'm calling my friends, hey, go make this bet, right? So that's the kind of scenario where there's nuance difference. And the reason that I picked these different examples is that they don't, on the surface, look all that different, but the outcomes were all over the place because of how we interpreted all of that data story. So this is the kind of thing with data-driven sports betting. It is about being data-driven. You have to look at the data. And in A-Train Station, we give you this visual to help you understand all of that data without having to read through long lists of numbers. Now, you refer to some of the numbers in a long list, but you don't have to go read through and try to interpret what's going on. You could look at the visual and say, I see what's going on here. Then you can look at some of the details, then you can make your decision and move on, right? You can go make that play and you move on. Next 5 minutes, next $5. We say that for a reason. You have limited resources of time and limited resources of money. Our software is designed to help you optimize both, solve for both. And that's what we do with how we create these pictures for you at A-Train Station, which are constantly getting better. We're getting more information, deeper information, other kinds of data that we can add to the complexity of that story. We can start to create a video over time. We can start doing so many things to help give you that insight. But even now, the power is there. And so that's the way you have to look at it, but you have to realize that power is only there if you understand what you're doing, understand how to look at this, understand what the data is trying to tell you. If you come in and say, well, I love these DraftKings unders, and you just play that blindly, you're going to play a lot of bad DraftKings unders. Not all the DraftKings unders are great. It's the right ones that are great, right? So you have to be thoughtful on those things. And if you don't know, watch more videos, learn more techniques, think through it, and try to find those edges that maybe aren't as evident. Maybe aren't, see, can you add something that you go look up? Can you think about something in a different way? Can you find a hole in a basic strategy and create a more advanced strategy? Say, I found a pattern in the data that tells me this. So do that. Let the data drive you. Let the data tell you what to do. And you be creative as you hypothesize and then test those hypotheses, right? So do that. Don't do what I call data justified. Data justified is when you have an idea. You might say, I love Genoa. They're a great soccer team. And you come in with this predisposition to bet on Genoa. And you look for data that tells you, oh, yeah, you're right in betting on Genoa. You know what that is? That's called data justified. You know what that is? It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. You have to be open-minded and let that data sway you. And always look, when final piece of advice, when in doubt, back away. You can't lose money that you don't bet, right? You can at some of these sportsbooks. That's an aside. But on the betting side, you can't lose the bet if you don't make the bet. And if you don't have enough confidence in that bet, just don't make it. There's another bet out there. Save the time. Say, you know what? Wishy-washy, move on, next one. That's how you optimize for your time. So the worst thing you do is just rashly run into it and just bet anything or bet it wrong over and over again really fast. You have to be very confident on it. And so this is why we need a lot more training. You need a lot more practice. You need a lot more thought at A-Train Station. The thing is, we try to make that thought much more productive than you might have with other tools. And so that's how we're designing this. That's how we're using this. And that's how we're teaching this. And we hope you have that same kind of experience as well. So with that, I hope you learned a couple things in this video. There will be more of these. We'll do more of these as we find additional strategies, or we just kind of update them from time to time, right? But I definitely want you to be thinking critically and finding these strategies for yourself as well. And certainly reach out with questions. We're widely available, Discord, on my live streams, send us emails. You'll find plenty of links all throughout. You can always go to atrainbets.com and find links to everything as well. But we hope you'll join us as a member at A-Train Station. And with that, this train is leaving the station. Until next time, save the units for the bros and do your betting like the pros.